baby.
Oh, yes! Yeah, baby!
This is the Sport Fishing Championship.
And stop number 2 of 11 of the Sport Fishing Championship from Club Nautico Santo Domingo White Marlin Tournament in Cabeza de Toro, Punta, Cana, Dominican Republic. We're looking for marlin today, billfish today, especially the white marlin. They're going to be plentiful, as shown by the namesake. The best of the Caribbean, where it meets the Atlantic here in the Dominican Republic. I'm Robbie Floyd with Ronnie Moore. And Ronnie, the DR, it's beautiful out there on land, but out there on the water, it is beautiful as well. One of our 11 stops this year.
Yeah, this is the second event of the season. Took place last week in Louisiana to kick off the Sport Fishing Championship year. You must fish 3 events minimum in the 2 different divisions, Gulf and Atlantic. Pick your poison, which one you want to do. This is a special dual event here in the DR this week. You can qualify for the Billfish Championship, which, Robbie, $1 million prize for the winner of that. Obviously, Angler of the Year money for each division as well.
Ooh, that's a lot of money. We also have some championship fish we'll talk about. But again, these anglers heading out on this first day of 3, this Thursday morning in the DR, as we'll refer to it as we go, preparing their lines, getting ready. It's going to be a little different styles, a little bit different body, a totally different body of water, as well as weather conditions. You see the boats lined up this morning. This was just a few moments ago. They're ready to go.
Yeah, we get to see takeoff this morning, day 1 of the 3-day event. We get to see Team Sea-Wish there taking off out of the marinas. 2 different host locations this week. Cap Cana and Cabeza de Toro is where our teams are taking off from. And we will see, of our 8 cameras on the water, each marina location represented, and we will see fish catches aplenty this week, it seems. The scoreboard is already lighting up, Robbie.
We're on international waters and international field as well. There are some people from the United States, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. Again, a variety of anglers heading out early this morning. To win that Sport Fishing Championship, the goal is to get the blue marlin. The first blue marlin is actually even more important, but a blue marlin, white marlin as well. But look at this field as they take off this morning. They made that run out there, and not very far, having to make that push, and the catch alert went off early at 8:18 this morning. Sea-Wish released the first white marlin.
Sea-Wish, Moonstruck, Donna Lucy, all with white marlin early this morning. And really, Robbie, you better catch quantity this week, because white marlin are plentiful down in the DR. That is the specialty fish that we're going to see this week, worth 125 points. We see Sisu, Fresh Air, and Donna Lucy with another one. Multiple teams already with multiple white marlin to their credit.
Again, it's a little bit different, or a lot different than you might have seen at Venice, because these guys are running 3 anglers per boat. We'll talk about more specifics as well. But each one of these teams will see their catches pop up on board. We'll hear that sounder, and we'll try to identify that angler as well as that boat.
And one big thing is we already look at Donna Lucy, 2 white marlin, Fresh Air, and Sea-Wish also with 2. Those are the early point getters, 250 points, because that's 2 white marlin, 125 each. The key thing this week, Robbie, they have 30 minutes from hookup time to land time for that fish to count. It's not an unlimited time. You need to hook them and catch them quick.
And you notice no blue marlin. The one thing about the Sport Fishing Championship, if you catch a blue marlin, if you catch the first blue marlin of the tournament, you get an extra bonus points, 100. So 350 generally. We add that 100. That's a 450 point fish. That could really put you ahead, whoever catches that first blue.
Yeah, and then we saw in the first tournament of the year, that really was kind of a close factor to deciding that winner. Obviously coming up just a little bit short for those teams there. But this is the playing field this week, Robbie. Going to be totally different than we saw in Louisiana. We saw 200, 300 miles for these runs that teams made in Louisiana. Here at the DR, 10, 20, maybe 30 miles, still able to see those beautiful beaches from your fishing spot.
Yeah, they were going to hundreds. Now they're doing just single digits. Ganillo, which also means banana in the Dominican Republic, is about 7 miles away. Las Tres Piedras, the 3 rocks, that's about 20 miles. I'd much rather make even a slightly rougher run, 7 miles, than go a calm 200 miles out like we saw in Venice.
Yes.
There's our teams in the field that we've got camera boats on. Let's take a look at Team Sea-Wish. We've got a camera on board, and we brought you the footage as fast as we could get it live just a couple of hours ago coming into the SFC studios.
Yes, and we're seeing catches up to date. Every single moment that these fish are getting caught and hooked, we are getting reports of that. And this was earlier today, one of those first 3 fish on the board that you mentioned, Robbie, Sea-Wish.
And again, a different style. They actually run that leader. It's a 20-foot leader all the way up to the rod tip to be a legal catch. eat your Wheaties if you're going to come out to the Sport Fishing Championship.
Don't bother taking a shower before you leave the hotel in the morning, Robbie, because you're going to get one early out on the water. But Team Seawish, like you said, got to get that leader to the rod tip to be a catch, 20-foot leader or so. And you have that time restriction that kind of gets teams on edge if they're not getting it in quickly. But a successful catch earlier this morning. You mentioned at 8:18, the third catch across the board. Team Seawish getting their start early this morning.
Xavier Quinones with that one. We'll see quite a repetitive last names. I think we got a lot of families fishing this event. It's a family sport. They've probably been doing it their whole lives. Again, there's our playing field out in the DR in much rougher conditions. Last week, it was calm. I mean, Gulf of Mexico. Here, they are rolling. It's not bad, but they're definitely rolling.
It is, and that, you know, the added pressure of that catch time that you have to get that fish. And we saw Team Seawish backing up, the waves crashing into the boat from the opposite end just to get that fish in time. And one thing that's interesting, Robbie, is how do you monitor that catch time, that 30-minute time from hookup to landing that you have to have for a qualified catch? They have an individual code that's once they call it in, it is granted to that team, and they have that code until they release that white marlin or blue marlin, any of the species. But hey, those point totals, you're going to see a lot of white marlin this week because you can get them in less than 30 minutes.
And that was a perfect catch and release, and that's what the Sport Fishing Championship is all about. Again, reel that leader up to the islet, that top islet, as we go out to Moonstruck earlier today. And you notice the equipment they're using also much different. We saw big, beefy reels and rods. Here, more light line. I mean, they're using 20-pound mainline monofilament. I mean, that's catfish stuff for the lake fishermen out there. But then they have that heavier fluorocarbon leader because that billfish would tear up a 20-pound and just pop it like a banjo string.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know how some of these fish will bite. And so that 20-foot leader is very key. But Team Moonstruck, we mentioned them earlier, the second catch of the day. And Robbie, you see that crewmate there with the board holding it behind the angler saying, hey, that is the catch ID for this hookup. You need to get it in the boat. One thing that's funny, compared to other sports, the celebration happens and you don't see the fish necessarily. The celebration is, hey, I got it in to the rod tip, successful release, clean release. That fish gets to swim and get caught another day. And then the celebration occurs inside the boat, meaning a successful release. And it's kind of the anticipation leading up to that has the teams on edge. And you can see them.
Yeah, he's talking about having it up, but you don't want that thing running. You got to be soft with it. They're close to 20 feet right here. You'll also see the utensil in the mate's hand.
And there's the celebration that we mentioned, Robbie, for a successful white marlin catch and release.
Yes, sir. We're on the scoreboard.
You're not only seeing that white marlin, you're also seeing those 125 points. Welcome inside our studios, Robbie Floyd with Ronnie Moore. And Ronnie, the excitement's there because not only are they chasing these billfish, they're catching these billfish. We've already seen, 15, 18 catches already this morning. We had almost that in 3 days in the Gulf.
What an incredible breakthrough for the SFC this year, being able to host these tournaments live, Robbie. You mentioned it, 15 to 18 catches already, and we're going to be seeing those live from the Dominican Republic. Think about where we are in our studios, landlocked in the United States, being able to see that live from the Dominican Republic. Some awesome stuff from the SFC this week that we'll get to see. Those white marlin are going to be key. If you get to catch that blue marlin, though, 450 points for the first one we see. And we mentioned those two different areas. You talked about the Banana and then Las Tres Piedras, the three rocks out there 20 miles away. That's more blue marlin territory. We'll see if a team that catches a couple white marlin can stack some points and then go get that big point total.
Again, this is just stop number 2 of 11. Let's take a look at our tournament schedule on the Sport Fishing Championship. We started in the Gulf of Mexico. We'll light up all of these different venues. But stop number 1, you couldn't ask for much better as far as conditions. Sunny skies, calm seas, and they caught them on Cherie. They took the victory there.
Grand Isle in Venice was a great host. We mentioned it this week. Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. We will see them this week down in the DR. The next 3 days of competition. We're excited to see that and bring that to you.
And again, the DR, it can go back and forth, whether it be Atlantic or a Gulf division. The St. Augustine event, we're moving to the Atlantic side. 2 of our Florida events. The other one's on the inner side on the Gulf.
Looking forward to being in St. Augustine and then we'll jump over to Orange Beach, Alabama, May 23rd through the 29th and knock out another stop before going to Biloxi, Mississippi in the first week or so of June.
Big party time in Biloxi. Then we move around the coast a little bit further in. This is our second Florida stop in Miramar Beach. It's, I believe, our penultimate round of the Gulf Division. We'll cap it off in Texas. And now let's go up top. Now we're heading into totally different waters, Ronnie.
It is. It's going to be totally different waters. An Atlantic Division. We mentioned 2 divisions, Cape May, New Jersey. Hey, you may not know so, but Cape May, a huge fishing town.
Yeah, and I know Martha's Vineyard. Seemed like around that area they film Jaws. We're not looking for Jaws. We're looking for billfish out there, as well as maybe some big yellowfin tuna. Montauk is going to be a great one as well. One of those last weekends in July, being on the tip of Long Island.
And that kind of wraps up the Atlantic Division before we get to wrap up the Gulf down in the South Padre Island, your region. August 3rd through the 7th, we'll be able to knock out that final event in your home state of Texas.
Find those teams who can push on to San Juan, Puerto Rico. We will crown a champion there, a grand champion there. Also some championship division fish as well that we'll talk about, but a $1 million paycheck will be offered at Puerto Rico. Again, 11 events, 2 different divisions. You must fish at least 3 of one or the other. And those top 20 teams each and every week will receive points plus their catch points, and they all add up for that $1 million prize.
Yeah, you may see our 8 cameras out on the water, but there's more than 8 teams in this tournament.
30 plus.
With 30 to 40 teams, you do not want to be in that bottom 10 or 20. You have to be in the top 20 to get scoring points. Your catch points, though, do carry with you no matter how many SFC events. So, hey, 3 minimum. But, Robbie, if you're trying to win $1 million, I want to be in as many as possible for those catch points to help me.
Let's go out on the water. We actually have our first live look, Team Sisu, and looks like it's getting sunnier outside. Seeing more blue, more cobalt in that water. They have 1 white marlin worth 125 points. Let's sit and watch what they're doing. And also, Ronnie, let's talk about the equipment. It looks like, of course, they're using bait, not lures this time.
Yes.
But ballyhoo's going to be prominent, certain types of mackerel, but also much lighter equipment than we saw in the Gulf.
Yeah, and the one thing that's the aspect of that is the white marlin. Obviously, some of them can grow very, very large, but the numbers, the quantity you're going to see may not be as big as the blue marlin that we saw last week. So your point total's about 1/3 of what the blue marlin is, and the equipment probably about 1/3 of the size as well, Robbie.
And a lot of terminology, and you see dredges, you have teaser baits, the things that try and entice these marlin in that are hanging off on the sides. But what is different, and let's get into this a little bit more, you have 3 different anglers on that boat. And they rotate either by catch. If they get a catch, they make a rotation, work their way clockwise around this boat. If they don't make a catch within the hour, they go ahead and do it at the top of the hour. But it can get interesting, and one angler might not be on the same program as the other angler, and that's what makes things special at this event. It's something that they do. Peter Miller, he's going to be with us the next 2 days. He's talked about it. It throws a little wrinkle in your shirt each and every day. Yeah, and that's the one thing the captain will say, hey, this one takes priority, and so if you have multiple hookups on the same boat, that time, catch it first.
The race against the clock will be hard for each angler to manage. So again, it's going to be fun to watch.
Only 30-minute window that these guys get to get that leader to the rod tip. We are just kicking off here the Sport Fishing Championship in the Dominican Republic.
Whether you like to ride the wind, find your secret cove, or reel them in, plot your paradise with GPS Map Series from Garmin.
Yeah, baby! That's what I'm talking about!
Sport fishing anglers from around the world competing for $1 million. The Sport Fishing Championship on CBS Sports Network.
It all comes back to the water, this binding agent, this fluid history of connection. past, present, and future, all tied together through this never-ending, unwavering force. We belong to a community of seekers, anglers, and everyone in between. For us, it's more than fishing, much more. It's who we are, who we were, and who we aspire to be. We are Smith.
SFC coverage of the CNSD White Marlin Tournament is brought to you by Salt Life, Seaholm Watches, and by Smith Optics.
The beautiful Radisson Blue Resort here in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. Each and every week I'm sitting in this studio wishing I was at one of our stops of 11.
I don't want to hear any of our crew members saying they were roughing it in the DR. What a beautiful place, the Radisson Blue, the host location this week.
Oh, Cabeza de Toro, known for its fishing here in Punta Cana, known for its nightlife, it's fun time. I don't know if I would ever leave the resort there at the Radisson Blue, but if I did, I'd certainly be going out trying to catch a blue marlin or white marlin.
One of the crewmates said it got a little loud near his hotel room the other night when he was staying there, and he decided to go sleep on one of the beds on the beach. And I said, "Oh, I feel so bad for you. You got to sleep down on the beach."
Living that bungalow life. All right, you see all of our boats in generalized areas, but some different rules here than we have at each and every stop. That's why we have this coming together of all these tournaments. Here, you have to run the leader, which is 20 foot long. You can see the red color. That's the leader. That's where a knot goes from the main line into that extended part of the line. If that knot needs to come all the way up to the rod tip to be considered a legal catch there, Ronnie.
You see it come up to a couple different guides. That fish makes the jump. Boom, you can then release it within that 30-minute time period. Counts as a qualified catch for a white marlin, 125 points to your total. That's the unique thing about this. It's all in the name of conservation. The more that you mess with these white marlin, the more that you touch them, the worse it can get for them. So this leader rule is fantastic for not only the quick releases and get back in the action, but the conservation aspect the SFC wants for the white marlin.
You see them with a couple of hand wraps once it's been a qualified catch, and then using that tool to go ahead and cut that line, and then the fish is out there to catch another day. But very identifiable. As soon as you get, in that particular case, the different colored leader, you get that red into the eyelets, you're done. Now, anything can happen. The fish can get off, and it's a perfect scenario.
And you can see the big-time aspect of documenting it. You not only have a crew member on the boat that has the identification code for that catch, but then you also have people filming it to proof of release. And as we look at the catch alerts happening right this instant, Grace, Sostita, Isabella, and Vagabunda, all the most recent catches over the last 15 minutes.
You're going to get your Spanish in.
I am pronouncing these probably incorrectly, but we will get better at it as it goes on.
Vagabunda now again all times are Eastern. This is as it happens out on the water. We've got scoring updates. If it's one of our boats that we have cameras on, we try and bring it back to you. But another thing, Ronnie, the difficulty. Invincible boats were making runs back and forth. Here it's much easier to make a back and forth run. If I'm going 20 miles, albeit that looks like calm seas, and that's a great shot. That could be a live aerial, or that is a live aerial looking at some of maybe the closer coastal waters. But making those runs back and forth, we can get more through the day and bring them to you on sportfishingchampionship.com.
Yeah, and we got to see those rings, those mile marker rings outside of the DR, 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, all 8 of our cameras within that 10-mile barrier, which tells us they're in that Guineo area, the banana as we referred to it, within that first 7 or so miles from the island. And that's going to be white marlin territory specifically. Maybe if we see a team branch out another mile marker, we'll start to see someone target that first blue marlin.
Get a couple predominant areas, and the reason being they have things called fads, fish attracting devices that are out there. It's kind of like almost man-made platforms. Well, we saw the oil platforms and the oil wells in the Gulf. They have these fads in the Dominican Republic that they're going to be dealing with that kind of attract the bait, the fish, and the big billfish around them.
What's very interesting is last week we had teams going 200 plus miles away, can't see anything, can't see the shoreline, you're just out in the middle of the ocean. Here, they're able to see those beautiful beaches of the DR, and people who are vacationing are probably watching. Look at those guys fishing out there, not knowing they're fishing for huge prize money, because the SFC is about top-tier competition, and this week bringing it to the DR for white marlin, billfish, and everything else galore, and the championship division of fish that we'll talk about later as well.
Two teams, Sisu with a couple of white marlins on the board. Team Mahi, I do not see them with a verified catch yet this morning. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Another thing to look at, Ronnie, is that these three anglers are on board, generally maybe a left, a center, and a right at varying lengths. It could be a mad scramble with a guy that you're not used to fishing with. You know, these guys could be from three different teams.
For sure,
and this is Team Sisu earlier today. And again, there's a mate on board there to help everyone. There's a captain, of course, aboard. And this is earlier today with Sisu, one of their catches.
You can see it way out there surfacing, and that's kind of the anticipation of the hookup. And then when you do, the excitement of the jumps, but the fear of the possible loss, and then you have to deal with that, staying focused, waves crashing in your face. It is a daunting task. Hey, it may be beautiful and sunny and warm conditions there, but man, it did take a toll on your body. 3 days of, this isn't even rough seas, but this is getting rougher for sure.
Again, the white marlin's been prevalent. All of our catches this morning have been white marlin, but they're not the only fish in the sea. Blue marlin, that's what they're really going for. If you can catch a blue marlin, that's 350 points, much bigger than the white. It's going to take longer to get it in, and you only have 30 minutes.
That is the Mac Daddy of them all. 350 points, like you mentioned, and the first one gets that extra 100 points that we get to add to that point total. Breathe Easy had it last week, almost helped them prevail in the tournament. Ron Cherry taking the title though, but blue marlin, that is the big species. And the strategy this week, when you go out there and fish for blue marlin last week, that's all you were targeting. This week, white marlin, 125 points. You're going to catch a lot more quantity of those, but there will be a team once they realize that we're probably behind on the leaderboard, we have to make up points. Maybe they go sell out for some blue marlin.
But look at the weight, 181 versus 1,181. I mean, the blue marlin, there's a reason they have such high points. Much more difficult to reel in. And some of these species we're not going to see this week. We know we should see blues. We're definitely seeing whites, but the sailfish is going to be key as well. You go to the DR, you see a lot of pictures, especially Cabeza de Toro, known for their sailfish.
Yeah, the sailfish, they kind of use that huge sail fin, the top of their back, to corral that bait fish on the surface. Really an awesome visual spectacle. And those fish are worth 75 this week. If you can tease a couple of them and trick some into biting, 75 points to your total there for sailfish.
And again, all of our species will be covering the spearfish, another 125 points. It's possible that they're out there and that somebody will go for them at a certain time of day if they can spot them on their sonar or their downward-looking sonar. They can see them, they're going to go for them because, again, those are points.
125 points for spearfish, for white marlin, and then we have those two others, 75 points for sailfish and swordfish up to 14 feet in length. Those are big boys as well. 1,182 pounds for the world record. We may not see a world record, but if we do see one, it will be a solid size fish up to about 14 feet, like the blue marlin in size and weight.
But we may very well not see a spearfish or a swordfish at this tournament. Again, sails, blues, whites, the predominant. And again, as we move around the country and around the globe, we'll see different species being caught in more occurrences.
Yeah, with the SFC events in the schedule, over 1.2 million miles of ocean and playable
square
water.
miles.
Yeah,
that's left
square
and
miles.
right
Yeah,
and forward and back.
that you can fish, and so there's a lot of opportunity out in the sea for these teams to catch probably all of those species on camera at some point this year.
Now, this event in the Dominican Republic also could go points total towards the Atlantic or the Gulf. If I'm fishing the Atlantic, I would have wanted to have made that run down here, found a participant that I'll do it with or whatever, or sign up for it.
Get you some early points.
Get me some points and see where it is. If you finish in that top 20, you're going to get your event point. You're also going to get those catch points. Because think about it, with the catch points, and we're looking at 8 different boats in the general area they're at. But when you talk about the catch points, if I catch 10 white marlin, I mean, that's better than 2 or 3 blue marlin, through the week. So again, it's all about points in the Sport Fishing Championship, and We're just at stop number 2 of 11 of this series. Robbie Floyd with Ronnie Moore. And Ronnie, talking about those points, we're going to see more white marlin here caught probably than we may see all year long.
Yeah, white marlin, we've already seen 18 to 20 white marlin for the teams overall getting caught. Especially we've seen 5 to 8 already on camera for the 8 boats that have cameras in the boat for them. But you mentioned it. If you're an Atlantic team, you come down to the Dominican Republic, get you some points on the board, because when we go to Cape May and then Martha's Vineyard and then Montauk to end the season for the Atlantics up there, those teams are going to be in a 3-week gauntlet. If you're going to have to miss one of those, you want to get points here for your 3-event minimum.
And I would have signed up late. If I was in the Gulf Division, which was our first stop, last week, I would have signed up at the last second because the Louisiana Gulf Coast Billfish Classic, Moncherie was able to take the victory. I would look at going back-to-back if it were me. Don't call me crazy, but again, when we were in Venice, Louisiana, these guys took off with calm seas, different conditions, bigger boats also we're seeing.
Yes, the playing field's completely different. The equipment they're using to catch these fish is totally different. And like you mentioned, the boats. The boats, though, hey, all glorious no matter the size, length, and the speed of these boats. They're all top-of-the-line equipment.
They were all partying the night before. Some were partying as they worked their way out as well. This is the first stop of the Gulf Division. Again, the DR can go one way or the other, but it was a great event in the Louisiana Gulf Coast Billfish Classic for Moncherie. Captain Matt Copoletta, Damon Schwest, they put on a clinic. So again, there's our playing field. You see the different depths, the drops, and just how far they were out in the Louisiana Gulf Coast.
I've been running the boat for a couple of years now, and it was the usual thing everybody does, look at Hilton's, Roff's report, all that, what you can see online before you go out there, and work great as a team. We've all been together for a while. I've been working for them for 11 years or so now. My mate, Davin Loren, he's our first mate. We have Dustin Pickney on there as well as our second mate. My boss, Damon Schwest, is an exceptional angler. He's caught very, very many blue marlin. He's got to be approaching 1,1700 now. So he's an asset definitely as an angler as far as trolling and everything go. And then we had a couple of friends of his. We had Reggie Leday on board, Lee Buziga, and we also had Adrian Danis on there as guests. Adrian caught the bluefin and did a really awesome job on that, and Damon caught all the fish. So we teased them all in, and he threw the pitch bait and caught them, so did a great job. For us being a part of the SFC, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm glad to be a part of it. You guys are doing a lot for our industry. It means a lot to me, and I hope to come out on top.
That was a great start. Again, angler Damon Schwest, he's caught 1,600
yeah.
of those.
Add 6 more blue marlin to the total last week in the Gulf Coast Billfish Classic to take the title there. 2,100 points for their fish catch points, but then 3,500 points for taking first. So 5,600 overall for Moncherie to get the season kicked off in the right way.
So I would think this would probably be one of their top 3 points totals. Again, you have to fish at least 3 events, and 3 will be eligible. Breathe Easy, not too far behind. Southern Charm, they still got shots. Again, 5 different Gulf events alone that are standalone events, plus this one as well.
Yeah, and then we saw teams like Fog Cutter that, hey, maybe got off to a little bit of a slow start early in the event, really came on strong to get a top 20 points qualification last week. Finished 8th. In the Louisiana Billfish Classic.
And there's those, there's the platforms, the oil rigs that we saw so prevalent in there. But when a blue marlin was on, it was tough fighting. We saw some catches and we saw some releases unexpectedly. So not everybody had a great day, but Fog Cutter did have 1 blue up to the boat in 2,350 points.
Yeah, that's the one thing. 2,350 points, that's combined with your catch points plus your finish placement. Think about that, Robbie. 2,350 for the total points, whereas Moncherie had 2,100 just from their catch points. Right. That is a huge decider. And like you said, 3 events minimum. Moncherie, they're not going to replace this event. This is going to be one of their 3 events. 2,100 points for their fish, 3,500 for first place. Fog Cutter, this could be a very good, solid, maybe their 3rd best event of the year if they do much better than the next 2.
Look at that fighting billfish. Let's sit and watch what happened last week in the Gulf Coast. There's the difference in this week. Brawny fighting chair,
Yep.
heavier rods, equipment. He's still somewhat muscling that fish, reel down, but much heavier main line, much heavier class reels.
We do know the equipment, it's scaled, it's ratioed based on the size of the fish that you're fishing for, but those blue marlin last week, we know of a couple teams with heartbreak losing a blue marlin. That's 350 points down the drain that they did not get. Look at that fish.
Was it Bob Cutter? I'm trying to figure out who had the loss. Man, that was...
What an incredible fight at the boat.
And there's the release.
Successful release. Celebration happens afterwards. Relief.
And hooked him, jumped on a leader, jumped all over.
Put on a good show.
Good show. Y'all will get a good show.
Robbie, that was a good show overall. Kicking off the SFC season in Louisiana, what a great show. Not only the fish performing, but the teams performing as well.
That is awesome. I mean, that looked like our icon for that. Looked like our trademark from the Sport Fishing Championship. Again, blues very plentiful last week in that catch, the release. And at certain times, again, different here where you have to run that leader all the way into the rod tip there. It was a little different form, and we talk about each week just the differences between. But look at that big, bad blue marlin all the way to the boat. Captain doing a great job as well, keeping that boat correct, having to make some turns.
That's the huge thing. You have multiple moving variables. The angler that's hooked up with that fish, the crewmates that are trying to grab the leader, people are trying to negotiate rods out of the way and whatnot. The captain, overall, the whole team directing and guiding what they need to do to get that fish as a catchable fish.
And also last week was another one of our top teams, Southern Charm. Let's take a look at what happened last week in the Louisiana Gulf Coast at the Bill Fish Classic. Again, this playing field was massive, expansive. I mean, you could start in Dominican Republic. You might be in Florida by the time you stop if you can make some of these runs. But look at how far that they had to travel. But a lot of them stood around Green Canyon. We saw Green Banks as well.
Yeah,
but here's Southern
Canyon as well.
Yep, here's Southern Charm and what they were dealing with.
Mentioned it, 5 anglers on board. 63-foot Hatteras is their boat. You mentioned it. The boats last week much bigger because they were going 200, 300 miles away from shore. This week, 10 to 20 miles away from shore. Captain Landon Bell helped Southern Charm to a good, solid event.
Also with these anglers, once they get that chair, once they make that handle pass, once he handed it to that angler, that is the angler of record. They cannot, say you're fighting for 5 hours last week, you couldn't hand it off to somebody and let them fight the fish. Once it's yours, it's yours. We had one young angler, an 18-year-old, fighting a fish that they didn't ever get to see, fought it for over 18 hours, and it got off, broke off.
That is the heartbreak aspect of the sport. Those majestic creatures. The blue marlin, you mentioned it.
Look at that
14
crank.
feet.
Look at that crank. I mean, put that on the end of your Toyota truck or whatever and just
tow anybody around.
Right. Totally different equipment this week from last. Within reason, they were trying to somewhat muscle these fish because they didn't have that 30-minute restriction. If it takes you 30 minutes to get this blue marlin, good.
Yeah,
right?
that's a positive for sure. These fights take, we mentioned it last week, you could hook up in the beginning of the show and not have landed the fish at the end of the show because it could be a much bigger blue marlin, and they all weigh the same. They all weigh 350 points to your total, except for that first one that you can catch.
On our end, size and length don't make a difference for the Sport Fishing Championship. You just look at that species.
These teams were really selling out, having to stay out there every single night, fishing through the night. No lines out period for these teams. That's what's different this week. 10 to 20 miles away. There is a lines in and lines out portion for teams in the DR this week, and Louisiana threw us a little bit of different looks for our first start of the SFC season.
Either way, it looks much prettier than it does in our studio. It is absolutely magnificent in the Dominican Republic and Punta Cana. Again, Cabeza de Toro, that's one of our launch points in Punta Cana. Welcome inside our SFC studios. And again, I keep looking at all this blue water. I keep seeing the facilities, but we want to go on site with Site One. And for the first time, we're going out to the venue in Crystal Hall. Our guest this week, Crystal, welcome to the Sport Fishing Championship. And let's just say your scenery is much prettier than ours.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you guys a little jealous of this view right now? It's incredible out here.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. And
Can you guys hear me over there?
Weather is different. Yeah, we're hearing you good. A little bit of a delay. Again, everything is live. But with the weather,
Awesome.
I saw a little bit of a rougher leave for the boaters today. It was different than what we saw last week. What are the conditions like there for you, and what have you heard?
Oh, well, from here, you know, it's beautiful weather. But apparently, when we're seeing live footage, it's a little sporty out there.
Obviously, they send them off, Robbie. We have kind of the blessing of the fleet, the big takeoff, and everybody's going to be coming in every single evening and leaving out every day. And Crystal, you get to talk to those teams at the tournament meeting. And what was the vibe of how this tournament was going to go for White Marlin in the DR this week?
Oh, I got to meet a lot of the teams last night at the captain's meeting, and they're super excited. It's like a community here. A lot of these teams, these guys, grown up fishing here, so it was super cool to get to know them, and I'm just excited to see what they come back with.
All right, Crystal, I want to know a little bit more about you. Followed you on social media. I just logged into the Instagram, and I've seen you. Southern girl, but boy, you've been around the fishing industry for quite a while. It looks like you just have fun wherever you go. And I saw pictures of you from Venice, where we were last week.
Oh, yes. Venice is an incredible fishery. I caught my first yellowfin there with my friend's Pelican Charters. So, yeah, I love fishing around the world. I've never been to the Dominican. I've never caught a marlin. So this is like epic fishing for me. And I'm just excited to be here with y'all and experience this.
We might have to get Horacio to maybe get you out there on the water. Again, the facility, out of all the fishing that you've done, and again, we're traveling up the East Coast and down to around into the Gulf of Mexico. Is there one place that you kind of always look back going, man, I remember that day? And what type of fish were you fishing for?
So, you know, I fished all over Florida, East Coast, West Coast. But I will say Costa Rica is amazing fishery. I've, you know, caught like 11 sailfish there in one day. So I would say definitely Costa Rica.
Ronnie, we're going to have to maybe get an SFC event in Costa Rica.
Yeah, exactly. Well, why don't we just do the island tour, the Dominican Republic,
Yes.
Puerto Rico, and Costa Rica. But Crystal, it's very
I love
interesting.
it.
The strategy of the Gulf Division, the Atlantic Division, and the Dominican Republic kind of is a merging of two. Both divisions can fish here and get points towards their SFC grand prize of possibly $1 million at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Like I said, this is a prestigious sports fishing championship. I've never done a tournament before, so this is like a whole new world for me. Trust me, I'd rather be on those boats right now, but you know, I'll sit here with you guys and share the experience.
Thank you, Crystal. We look forward to talking to you throughout the week. Get the scoop for us. Tell us what they're doing. They're going to be coming back in, something different that we didn't get to see last week. These anglers are going to be coming in and out each day, where last week they were staying out for all 3 days.
Yeah, 200 miles out. You don't want to make that run every single day, so they stayed out, slept on the boats very little, continued to fish through the night, no lines out. But this week, like we mentioned, lines in each day, 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. lines out. Need to be back at the marina after that. Saturday, lines out will be 4 p.m. for the final winner's crown of this event.
I think that's just another reason for them to party when they come back every single day. I mean, I know they're doing it out there on the water, but I mean, go ahead and get away from the sea legs, get on land for a little bit and have some fun. Let's take a look at our points right now for the CNSD White Marlin Tournament. Stop number 2, the Sport Fishing Championship. A couple of marlin for 4 of our teams.
Yeah, 4 teams tied at the top. Donna Lucy, Fresh Air, Sea Wish, and Sisu all tied for first, but 2 white marlin to their credit. And we will see the rest of those who have caught 1 try to jump up and tie for the lead when we come back.
You can watch, you can listen for that sounder. If we have a catch, we'll bring it to you on the SFC Championship.
The Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation is honored to be the official charity of the Sports Fishing Championship. Through this partnership and the support of donors like you, Future generations will enjoy and benefit from a naturally balanced ocean ecosystem. Our education programs, both in the classroom and online, bring to life the work needed to make sure we have clean oceans for decades to come. Join us today at www.ghof.org.
Serious. You are as excited to wake up for a 4 a.m. fishing trip as you were when you were a kid. It means winning 3 World Sailfish Championships. It means you know what you need and what you don't. Being serious means seeking out the ultimate fishing machine, which is what Peter Miller has found in the unmatched handling, speed, and comfort of an Invincible.
It's the simple things, like spending a day at the beach, splashing in the water, playing in the sand, and creating sandcastle masterpieces. Rediscover fun and family on the beautiful white sand beaches of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach.
SFC coverage of the CNSD White Marlin Tournament is brought to you by Invincible Boats, Centered Wellness, and by the Louisiana Office of Tourism.
Looking back through the bait fish, trying to entice the mighty billfish here in the Dominican Republic. Stop number 2 of 11, the Sport Fishing Championship. Cabeza de Toro in the Dominican Republic. This is a big, big tournament for this area, the CNSD White Marlin Tournament. They've been doing it for years. And there's your points as it stands right now. A couple of multi-fish teams with Donalusa Fresh Air, Sea Wish, and Sisu, but again, several catches today already.
Not only will we see points going towards white marlin, blue marlin, sailfish as well, probably, but we also have that championship division of fish, the Invincible Boats, yellow tuna, yellowfin tuna. You've got the mahi-mahi and the wahoo that are not necessarily points towards this standings, but a season-ending $50,000 payday for each of those fish if you have the biggest one. And last week you got to see a big yellowfin from Invincible Boats come across the board.
Yeah, look at Daniel Lander. That was a beast, 139 pounds. And if there happens to be a yellowfin tuna around here, probably not going to be in that Invincible Boats leader category. Again, we will, no matter what the species of those 3, we'll have a champion each stop. If there's a fish, an eligible fish, we'll keep their name. They'll get a little pop, but they're going to have some work to do to catch up to a 140-pounder.
Yeah, Team Rising Suns, hey, if you're not at the top of the leaderboard for the Blue Marlin event, you might be upset. But if you can catch one of these while you're out there just as a bonus fish, that's an extra payday at the end of the year. If you win each category, I mean, that's $150,000.
Absolutely. Here, Wahoo, we know they're there. One of the categories that they're big on here are mahi-mahi. You just research Dominican Republic fishing or, Cabeza de Toro. You see a lot of mahi-mahi pictures. And there are those 3 championship fish divisions. And our champion at the end of the year for each of those 3 will win $50,000. So doing what you're supposed to be doing anyway, and then also coming away with a $50,000 check, especially the mahi-mahi. I've been, in general areas like there's some toads out there. There's some big ones.
So you're telling me, Robbie, we could possibly win $1 million for the overall championship, $100,000 for the Angler of the Year division, and then possible $150,000 if we have a great season? I mean, why don't you just take the cake on all of them, Robbie?
That's what I'm saying. Our boats out on the water with cameras today, and again, we can toggle between the teams and boats. Let's go out on board to Moonstruck. Again, these are generalized areas where they're out across the coast. There's some of those teasers that were out in the water. Let's listen in.
Ay, chiquito, mano. Ah, para soltarlo.
Speaking of, is that a mahi? Right? I think that I just saw a jump. A little one. It's a little baby mahi, but it counts. I guess he can be our leader.
Hay mucho ahí.
Also known as the Dorado. Yep, our first mahi-mahi on board. So not the biggest. It's not going to probably be our winner, but we've got our first.
Yeah, if no one catches another one for some reason, Robbie,
well,
they have the spot.
The frigate bird that we saw with the other birds, with the boobies, it was a school of golfing, of mahi. And it's a small one, but it's food. That will be our dinner tonight. Or maybe our lunch tomorrow. Yeah, and that's not what we're looking for, but we'll eat it.
Hey, got to throw a lot out. I love that. It might not be our big catch today, but it might be our lunch tomorrow.
Did you hear that indication that they had? Not only do you have sonar in the graphs, your visible eye, but the birds gave it away. He said he saw birds, and he saw some fish busting, so
they're tagging bait, and the fish are underneath there. And there could be seaweed or maybe something. This was a look earlier at Moonstruck, currently in 4th place. Yeah, they're busting bait. Why not? Throw out there, catch a fish. And again, the marlin hang around those mahi-mahi. We saw a team last week put one in a tube and say, hey, I might need this later on.
The eyesight of these billfish to be able to come from afar, if you do see some activity, you could hook up with the billfish that you need, and it looks like this was one from Team Moonstruck earlier today. You see that board there, the crewmate with the orange gloves holding that board. It has the catch ID number specific to that catch. I'm gonna make sure that you do, from the hookup time to the catch time, it has to be within 30 minutes for it to count.
Hey! Come here, brother. Okay. Ya cogieron. Sí. Está cogida. Hey! First of the day. Primero día. Yes, sir. We are on the scoreboard.
So we move from one boat to another. Looks like they're not too far from each other, but they're all relatively close. Let's take a look at Sea Wish from earlier today. Again, a couple of boats already catch multiple white marlin with different anglers on board. But again, this was Sea Wish earlier.
That's the one aspect, Robbie, that we didn't see last week, is teams being so close to each other, within eyesight of the beach, within eyesight of each other. That's going to mess with you if you see one team like Sea Wish, currently first, hooking up with multiple white marlin, and you're sitting there in eyesight saying, I'm in a good area, I'm just losing to that team, I need to catch more than them.
Caught one at 8:18 this morning, followed it up at 8:50, so 2 white marlin within the hour. Giancarlos Quinones and Xavier Quinones are 2 anglers. I believe this is Xavier. Or Xavier, depends on which part of the DR you're from.
I think I said Donna Lucy earlier for the team, but I saw the tilde over the end, so it's probably Donna Lucy. You know, so I'm trying to.
Is there a tilde over the end?
Yes.
Doña
Lucy. See, learn something new every day when I hang around you, Robbie.
It's a enye.
You not only had the team member with the board of the catch ID, but you also saw one videoing it on the iPad there for proof of catch and release within that time frame. That's gonna be huge this week, especially if someone catches a big white marlin, maybe some rough waves, hard to get in the boat.
This is earlier with Team Sisu, and also noticed variety. You saw a little bit of a drop there in that area, the general area that they're in, and that's something that they look for as well. Maybe these fish able to get down into the depths and come up there right at that drop to catch those bait fish. And you saw a boat in the background. You'd actually see another competitive angler possibly.
That's the one thing when you're looking for these billfish, especially white and blue marlin. Some of these fish will hover mid-depth over very deep water. So those breaks, those drops that you see where that watercolor from up above changes to a different tone and a different hue of blue, meaning how deep it is. Some of these teams will ride. That's why you see, if you looked at the map of the 8 teams, even though they're kind of generic destinations and locations, they're all on the same line, which tells me it has to be all lining that break. They pick their break and trying to catch a white marlin.
It's not just about catching these fish or searching for these fish. It's about being able to catch them again. And today's conservation spotlight for our Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation is a good one.
Hey everybody, I'm Pachi Pastor, CEO and President of the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation. Dr. Harvey inspires us every day, and we're privileged to be part of this great team with Sport Fishing Championship and part of the season that's just kicking off in beautiful Louisiana. The anglers are out there in the world-famous canyons, and part of the story is about the importance of fisheries and sport fishing and how that drives a sustainable engine for a community in terms of ecotourism and also this conservation message that gets wrapped into that. So at each of the stops that we have with this great championship season, we work with each community, the schools, the local teachers, and the community talk about conservation, education, and most importantly, stewardship of this incredible resource we call fisheries. And as you go through this particular journey with us, we're going to be working with the kids, and these particular kids are talking about water quality, marine plastics, these critically challenged ecosystems when we look at living shorelines like mussels, bivalves, oysters here in Louisiana, and the coral reefs where I live in the Keys. It's all about corals, but wherever we go, it's really firing these kids up and showing them cool things that they can do to not only become a marine biologist, but to get involved in this whole blue economy. And what better place than these wonderful locations that we go to where people really are passionate about fisheries, fishing, and that sport fishing story is something that these great guys at Sport Fishing Championship are going to cover, and we're thrilled to be a part of the adventure. As Dr. Harvey always says, fair weather and tight lines. We'll see you there.
A day out on the water could go great, or it could have a few minor setbacks. Things could get rough, or you could lose that $900 smartphone. Whatever the problem, Yugo provides unmatched premium protection for any water sports adventure. Yugo. To get yours, visit YugoWear.com or simply scan the QR code on the screen. And remember, just add water.
Yeah, baby! That's what I'm talking about! Sport fishing anglers from around the world competing for $1 million. The Sport Fishing Championship on CBS Sports Network.
So, you want this, but you can't have it without this, or this, or this. Until now, introducing a new way to travel, intranationally. Get all that international charm without ever leaving the country. Right here in St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra. Get all that culture, all the cuisine from that culture. You're welcome. All the gram-worthy sites from that hashtag culture. It's right here at home. St. Augustine, Ponte Vedra. Travel intranationally.
SFC coverage of the CNSD White Marlin Tournament is brought to you by Garmin, the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation, and by St. Augustine and St. Johns County, Florida's historic coast.
The beautiful Radisson Blue plays host to our second stop of the Sport Fishing Championship. Each and every day, these boats will take off. They come back, and Ronnie Moore, they have this to come back to. You couldn't ask for better.
They're roughing it this week at the Radisson. It looks like what a beautiful place to host all of our teams and crew members, and the location this week in the Dominican Republic, Punta Cana. What a great place to have not only a vacation, but fishing. I mean, hey, if we're here, we want to be there. And Crystal was there and wanted to be out in the water. So there's always somewhere that you want to be rather than where you are.
Was that where Wes Miller, our cameraman, was sleeping last night? Is that the guy you were wanting to keep his name secret?
It wasn't Wes. It was. I'll have to disclose that later. But yeah, he was like, my hotel room was a little loud, so I went and slept out on the beach. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Again, we highlight and showcase these great facilities, but we've got many more still ahead, including our Smith Optics. Let's take a look ahead with our Smith Optics look ahead in St. Augustine, Florida. This is America's very first city. Ronnie, you had to learn about it in history class.
Yeah, I did, and this is actually my home state. You bragged about your home state of Texas. Yeah. I grew up in North Carolina, but I am originally from Florida. Excited to get back to St. Augustine this week. I won't be with you in studio, but I'll be able to enjoy the sun and the waves and the beaches and the ocean there in St. Augustine. But what a historic destination. And a lot of these tournaments, Robbie, they've been going on for so many years. These tournaments out of these ports like Dominican Republic, like St. Augustine, and more.
And here's a look at all of our venues throughout. And you see the second stop, that's where we're at right now. It could either be a Gulf or Atlantic. And again, you have to fish 3 events, whether it be a Gulf event or 3 Atlantic events. And we'll work our way around the bottom of the country. We're currently in the Caribbean Atlantic juncture and work our way back up to the top. You're going to see a lot of variety, a lot of beautiful places. And each and every stop has something fun to be a part of, whether it be in Biloxi or Orange Beach or go up there to Montauk or Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, exactly. We go 11 events, 2 different divisions. You saw in that schedule, Gulf, a dual event, and then Atlantic are the first 3 events to kick off the season. St. Augustine will be the first of the Atlantic. You have to fish at least 3 events minimum, Robbie, to be able to qualify for that championship. The top 20 teams in each event will get scoreable points. Along with your catch points, you combine all of those at the end of the year, you qualify for the Billfish Championship, where the winner will take home $1 million.
In Puerto Rico, our second of 2 international stops, the first being this week. Again, it's day 1 of 3, Thursday, Friday, Saturday tournaments. Each day, also, you can follow along on sportfishingchampionship.com. We've got updates and highlights, and we try and bring you as much stuff live that we can this morning. 16 catches already. It took 2.5 days to get 16 catches in the Gulf, but there they were catching more blues. Here they're catching the much more frequent white. Let's take a look at the catch alert as we worked our way up from this morning. 8:11. It was an early start for Doña Lucy catching the first white.
Get it right. Doña Lucy, Moonstruck, Sea Wish, the first 3 catches of the day. Robbie, we said 16 catches already this morning. Boats weren't even to their primary areas yet in the Gulf because of the long runs. Then we have Doña Lucy again, Fresh Air and Sisu. Multiple teams with 2 white marlin to their credit tied at the top.
And Doña Lucy caught them both within 30 minutes. We saw another one, Sea Wish caught them within an hour. So you kind of get in a flurry again. They'll be grouped up, and there's Sea Wish with their 8:50 time. Again, if you get in this mess of fish, if you will, you're hoping to get multiples, but only one angler, can be out there with that one rod. Then this guy to the left of you, he catches one. The angler to your right catches one. All hell's going to break loose.
Yeah, you got to regroup after each one of those and be prepared for the next hookup so you can take advantage of a great area, a great drift, a great, a run as you go. Because everyone's fishing the same break, it looks like, within that 7-mile area. Everyone's fishing the break. It's where you choose it. And we see Isabella, Sostatita, and Grace, all recent catches before this kind of lull in action.
Another thing is also that they might have a gentleman's agreement. And, it looks like at 10:05, Vagabundo, we saw that was one of our last ones. They could have a gentleman's agreement. Say somebody gets a fish on, they could both reel in and then fight that fish, do your thing, and then then it could be my turn if I go in.
Yeah, a lot less hectic, but the opportunity to catch 2 or 3 at the same exact moment is still prevalent there. 4 teams tied at the top. Doña Lucy, Fresh Air, Sea Wish, Sisu, all tied with 2 white marlin to their credit.
And it's a 3-day tournament. This is just stop number 1. Again, you accumulate points for each fish that you catch, whether it be a blue marlin, white marlin. Again, those championship fish, they don't receive points. We're out there for the billfish.
We are indeed, and we will be bringing you more billfish coverage after this commercial break. From the Dominican Republic, the second stop of the SFC season. We'll be right back after these commercial breaks.
This has been a presentation of the Sport Fishing Championship.